We all saw that video from the Garki modern market in Abuja recently. A body on the floor, still alive. A black van surrounded by irate youth throwing stones at the van. The police standing guard and appealing for calm. It was a lot to take in. Thankfully, before long, we got to hear what actually happened from the police force. And so far, 2 statements from the DSS who say investigations into the incident are underway. Well, we decided to take it a little further. We caught up with the victims of the incident, who told us their side of the story, as well as eyewitness accounts that honestly made us very sad in our focus on the FCT. Luckily, no life was lost this time, but it could have been so much worse, as my guest explains. And it is time to check this very dangerous trend that usually costs us lives and reduce the credibility of security agencies we rely on for protection. And yes, we have an update on the major stories from Nigeria's seat of power on our Abuja Wrap. This is Dateline Abuja. Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Megwa. Let's begin with our Abuja Wrap. What happened this past week in the Tinubu presidency? Take a look.
President Bola Tinubu has met with heads of state of 3 nations which have been identified as key partners in his economic development diplomacy drive for local investment and wealth creation. According to a statement from the president's spokesman, Ajuri Ngelale, President Tinubu had a meeting with the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, where he presented a unique opportunity to expand ties of prosperity for the people of the country, but with a pragmatic approach toward ensuring the effective execution of agreements struck. Following President Tinubu's acceptance of the German Chancellor's request to visit, the president proceeded to sit down with the leader of Asia's 4th largest economy, South Korea, during which the president, Yoon Suk-yeol, commended the president's regional leadership in upholding democratic tenets and norms. President Tinubu shared his economic focus as he immediately advanced proposals for an enhanced South Korean presence in Nigeria's local manufacturing sector, while the South Korean president responded in agreement, promising to mobilize his business community to take advantage of new Nigerian incentives for the education, technology, and energy sectors. President Bola Tinubu has promised to reconstruct the LMA axis of the East-West Road. He made the promise when he received a 62-man high-powered delegation from Rivers State comprising leaders from the All Progressives Congress and the People's Democratic Party led by Governor Siminalayi Fubara and the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nyesom Wike. The president, who lamented over the rate of poverty in Nigeria despite the abundant resources in the country, says he is inspired to change their lots. The committee, which thanked President Tinubu for appointing Mr. Wike as FCT Minister and Mr. Ajuri Ngelale as his media advisor, among other sons and daughters of Rivers State, had earlier appealed to the president to rehabilitate the East-West Road. The Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, departed Abuja for Havana in Cuba to represent President Bola Tinubu at the G77 Plus China Leaders Summit. A statement by the Director of Information in the Office of the Vice President, Mr. Olushola Abiola, says Senator Shettima joins other world leaders, including the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, at the summit to deliberate on development issues facing members mostly from the Global South. Bilateral meetings with other world leaders on the sidelines of the meeting to promote Nigeria's trade and investment relations in line with the economic development diplomacy of the Tinubu administration are part of the itinerary. Establishing a Ministry of Livestock to tackle farmer herders' clash formed part of the recommendations of the National Conference on Livestock Reforms. The conference submitted its reports to President Bola Tinubu at the Presidential Villa Abuja, where they intensified calls for a holistic approach towards revamping the livestock sector, including the use of modern technology. The United States President's Malaria Initiative, the Global Fund, and the U.S. President's Emergency Plan for Aid Relief are committing a total of $2 billion to fight HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria in the next 3 years in Nigeria. This was disclosed during a meeting between Vice President Kashim Shettima and a delegation from the 3 organizations at the Presidential Villa Abuja. The Vice President says increasing domestic health financing, industrialization, and improved health outcomes are topmost on the agenda of the President Bola Tinubu. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, has inaugurated a 15-member interministerial committee to oversee the celebration of the nation's 63rd independence anniversary. Members of the committee include Ministers of Information and Culture, the FCT, Foreign Affairs, Finance, Interior, the National Security Advisor, Inspector General of Police, permanent secretaries, among others. Speaking at a brief inauguration ceremony in Abuja, Senator George Akume, who is flanked by the Minister of State for the FCT, amongst others, stated that the celebration affords an opportunity to reflect on the bravery and sacrifices of national heroes who fought for the independence of the country. The lineup of activities earmarked to mark the 63rd anniversary include a public lecture, church service and Jumat services, military parade, as well as a presidential broadcast on October the 1st. 105 terrorists have been neutralized by the military in various operations across the country in the last 1 week. The Director, Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, gave the breakdown during the bi-weekly briefing on the military operations in the country. Major General Buba adds that 456 suspected terrorists were also arrested during the operations. Meanwhile, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taurid Lagbaja, is promising that the military will continue to fight to ensure the protection of Nigeria's territorial integrity.
Welcome back. Recently, the FCT Police Command successfully contained a potentially volatile situation at the Garki Modern Market. In an official statement issued by the FCT Police Commissioner, Haruna Garba, it was revealed that a confrontation had erupted between a tailor in the market and personnel from the Department of State Services, DSS. During the altercation, shots were fired, injuring the tailor, his name is Mubarak, in the leg, and a bead maker called Lovett in the face. Meanwhile, the Department of State Services has released a statement through its Public Relations Office confirming that it has initiated an investigation into the incident. And recently, another press release from them stating that the DSS will pay the hospital bills of the 2 injured persons who are receiving treatment, and that the DSS staff suspected in the incident is still in police custody, and that they will not interfere in those investigations. Well, we went to the market and the hospital the day after the shooting incident, and here's what we found. The Garki Modern Market is one of the most organized markets in the nation's capital, and it is not known for crisis situations. That calm was disrupted on September the 7th, 2023. Videos on social media show people running helter-skelter following the sounds of gunshots. Amid the ruckus, the police are on ground, seemingly guarding the body of that man lying on the floor. Witnesses say the men in that black truck had tried to take away the man after shooting him in the leg. As the youth in the market become irate and begin hitting the truck, the car drives off. Later, a statement from the FCT Police Command gives details of the incident, stating that the impasse involved a DSS operative and a tailor. According to the statement, shots were fired and a tailor called Mubarak was injured. Further investigations reveal that a young woman, a bead maker named Lovett, was also accidentally shot in the face during the ruckus. Irate youth took out their anger in the police outpost within the market. The Department of State Services says it has received information of the incident involving their operative and has commenced an investigation into the incident, promising proper dispensation of justice. Yes. Back at the market, eyewitnesses give their own account of the incident and the status of those that have been hurt.
The way the thing started, where that a tailor was giving clothes for amendment by a client. Then, according to the tailor that was interviewed, he said the case is already in police station. Then suddenly, instead of DSS, on the arrival, we were expected to meet, as in go straight to police station and ask the channel of the whole thing. Suddenly, now went straight to tailor shop, started beating the tailor.
They shot like 3 times yesterday. So in process around this place, so they are trying to move him, put him inside the car. One policeman here in Garki International Market, he was dragging him down, also dragging him down. So no, he already wasted somebody. I want to take him away again. No, it's not possible.
The market authorities confirmed the injuries of 2 victims who were receiving treatment at the Garki Hospital and the Cedar Crest Hospital in Gudu.
The problem started when they said they wanted to arrest him, and he insisted on going to the police station because he said, of course, the police people are the custodians of law and order in the market, and he needed for people to know where he was going to because he didn't know who the guys were really. He just knew they were DSS people. When he said he wanted to take them to the police station, they refused. It was at the point that he started making his way to the police station, and they let out the first shot, which missed him and hit his neighbor, Miss Lovett, who is she stones clothes in the market. And that was what happened. He froze when they shot the first time, and then they shot him in the leg. And they didn't stop at that. They started dragging him to their car. It was at that point that tailors and traders rushed out and said, no, you can't shoot this guy and still be dragging him into the car. And that was what happened. So I just saw Mubarak at the Garki at the Garki hospital, and he's slated for surgery. He's in pain, great pain. Still is bleeding a bit, and the trauma is a lot. The lady Lovett, Garki had to move her to Cedar Crest, which has better facilities for maxillofacial surgeries and all. And as we hear, even the surgeons there can't manage her situation right now, and an expert is going to be flown into the country to help.
I saw everybody running around, and that's what happened. They say Ismail Mubarak, they shot to Ismail Mubarak, and now rushed down to the police station. When I got to the police station, I saw him. They were limping. Two men out from the markets, like they were tailors, were hugging him to just maintain balance because his leg was shot and broken. So we now have to. The first thing we need to do is to now rush Mubarak first to the hospital. We took him to this hospital here, National Assembly Hospital here. So they said they have to get police report before they can treat them. I have to rush back to this place. An officer here, Saleh, now took his car and said, okay, I should just enter. The other guy should enter. We should go back. We go get back there. They now told that they cannot handle the matter right there. So they have to give us an ambulance that convey us to Garki General Hospital. So there they attend to them, they sedate him, and at that moment, after X-ray, we're now waiting for doctor, we're now waiting for a surgeon to come and do the job. So as at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock yesterday, the surgeon was nowhere to be found. But it was later, around 9 o'clock, the surgeon now came, they now do the operation, they told us it was successful. I don't have the picture here, and that it was successful.
We were given a video of Lovett, who's still receiving treatment from the gunshot wound to her face at the Cedar Crest Hospital. Meanwhile, we were able to meet up with Mubarak, who's receiving treatment at the Garki Hospital. He tells us his side of the story, attributing the shooting incident to an impasse he had with a female customer, who he says he has worked with for 5 years. He demands justice from the relevant authorities.
I call her Rashida, and also Mama Nana, that's her name. And she's in CBN quarters at the back of Owando fuel station, beside Garki supermarket. That's the CBN quarters she's living. First of all, I want to see myself okay first. Whatever will happen, let me be okay. And the court of law or the agency, they know what to do.
Do you have anything you want to say to the woman that called DSS on you?
Nothing. There is nothing I will tell her.
Thank you very much.
But I would like to see her.
You want to see her?
Yes, face to face.
What would you see? What would you do when you see her?
The one that I will tell her, it is when I see her. Because we have been doing business for more than 5 years. I have never disappointed. She knew.
Incidents like this shooting in the Garki market have become common across the country. People with friends or relations in security agencies resort to employing the full force of those agencies in times of distress, usually resulting in an overreaction, as is alleged to have happened in this case. Investigations are ongoing, and the outcomes of those investigations, we're told, will be made public as Nigerians watch to ensure justice is done to the perpetrators of this crime. My guest on the program is a Nigerian human rights lawyer, Martin Obono. We have a lot to talk about in so little time. Well, in the time that we do have, I tried to find out what the fault lines are in this incident and what course of action should be taken next by all parties involved. Mr. Martin Obono, welcome to Dateline Abuja.
Thanks for having me.
You know, you've been arrested, haven't you? I remember watching. Wait, I remember you being released. I remember you being released, and it was about a tweet. You had tweeted something that the police were unhappy about. Is it something you can talk about, or is it?
I mean, what's under the bridge? It's everywhere. It was essentially about how police were handling some of my clients who went to report the rape issue, and so it was basically making reference to what the tweet was about. I mean, what somebody else had tweeted about how police had treated them, and so they didn't find it funny. So by the time I went back to the police...
It wasn't supposed to be funny, was it?
Absolutely not. By the time I went back to the police the next day to figure out what was, the follow-up on the case with my clients, they were like, okay, you don't come, sit down. And so they were trying to basically detain me and all that. I mean, they got detention form filled, but at the end of the day, they couldn't succeed because of the outrage that was going on outside. So it just cut them pants down, kind of.
So, the conversation today that we're having is about security forces, really, and how they, how they handle issues when they're brought to their notice, especially when that notice is sent to them through informal means. A lot of the FCT is a lot like DC, like Washington, DC. Everybody knows somebody in government. That's just the reality of our city.
Except me.
Except you. Well, the people who try to arrest you. But you know what I mean? It's a city where everyone knows somebody in government. So it's likely that if I had an issue with you, I'd call up someone who could handle this for me. As someone who handles human rights issues, do you come across situations like this one that we saw in Garki, that is still being investigated, by the way, where a security agency is alleged to have stepped in a domestic issue and caused gunshot wounds to someone's leg and someone's face? Have you had to deal with situations like that? And how do you handle them when they happen? I mean,
on a regular basis, we see cases of abuse of power in FCT, in Nigeria, most across the country, especially in FCT, basically, like you said. Where you see people who feel they have power, or they have access to power, over utilizing those powers and exercising those powers, or abusing those powers. Let me not use the word exercising, because that would mean they're doing it within the ambits of the law. But in this case, you find them abusing those powers, using the state security services, which is automatically not supposed to be in mingling with affairs like that.
Is it right from a human rights lawyer's perspective, when these things seem like domestic disputes? Should security agencies, not just the Department of State Services, but also the police or immigration or the NSCDC, should they involve themselves in things like that? Was it right for the DSS to be in that market, at Garki Modern Market at the time, from a lawyer's perspective?
Absolutely not. The role of the SSS, it is supposed to maintain intelligence for the state, provide security for the states, and government officials provide security around them. So essentially, their mandate is summed up in these three areas. So gather intelligence for the states in case there is any domestic external, and including domestic intelligence as well. So they have no business with tampering with cases like this, or trying to tinker with cases like this. The people who have the role and responsibility to do this are the Nigerian police force.
And which was the argument that the police gave?
Yes, it's the Nigerian police force.
They said, look, the case is with us. We cannot let you take him away.
And when a case is already established, reported to the police, and what is the SSS trying to do? That's the question.
With human rights abuses, you've identified that these are human rights abuses. Why is it unchecked? Has there ever been a time that someone from a security agency was prosecuted successfully for, human rights abuse, extending their powers to areas where those powers shouldn't be extended? Has there ever been a conviction, or are we just identifying our problem for the first time?
I mean, I will give it to the Nigerian police. The Nigerian police has been very, responsive in these parts, in as much as it's in a very few,
we've been seeing the videos where Muyiwa Adejobi would say this person is being dismissed for so and so, and then they'll take away the person.
So that is dismissal. Okay. They also prosecute as well.
Yeah.
There is also the Nigerian army, for example. I know that the Nigerian army court-martialed a lot of them, you know, for abuses of rights. Yes, exactly. So I have been in court-martials as well, representing clients where I then see what happens within the court-martial. So, I mean, we must give it to these arms of security forces, but it doesn't happen with the SSS, you know, because they act in a veil, right, behind a veil, rather, to say national security is key, and so we are not supposed to explain. We don't owe you that.
Is that what it is?
Do you understand?
So it's national security.
It's national security. So it's just the same arguments that you have that the former Attorney General was trying to make with the former president, saying that national security trumps human rights. That's totally wrong. That's an abuse of power, because human rights trumps national security, because it is within the prisms of the rule of law that you find national security.
Why is any trumping the other? Why isn't it simple? National security protects human rights.
Brilliant. You've just succinctly put it right.
Why is there a war? Why is one trumping the other? What should the DSS be doing right now?
I want to bring you to something called causation, right? In law, chain of causation. My mother went to make beads in the market with the hope that she's going to come back home and bring 5,000, 3,000 naira for my tuition, you know, or my school fee, my school uniform or something, and then I'll get food from that, whatever she makes. And then, with that hope and expectation, I hear that a police officer or an SSS person shot the only hope that I have in the face. Do you think I'll be happy? How angry do you think I'll be? Now, these are the issues that make people become what we don't want them to be. And then that has happened and you're calm. You say, okay, let's wait and see whether justice will be done. In the end, the state fails you and doesn't deliver justice to you. What then happens to that child? The abuse of office, extrajudicial killings, violation of human rights. You could be driving and a truckload of police or SSS will be escorting a big man and they will brush your car off the road and nobody will compensate you for it. So people need to begin to take responsibilities. The state needs to take responsibilities for its citizens and account for them.
Well, we do have to wrap it up there. And this is a conversation that we can have for so long. I understand, you know. But I want to thank you very much for being with us on Dateline Abuja, and good luck with all the cases I know you have ahead of you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks to my guest and to everyone who spoke to us today on the program. We learned a very bad habit as Nigerians, and in truth, this happens everywhere around the world. Because formal channels failed us many times, we learned how to use informal channels. And the more connections we made, the more powerful we became. So when we need something done immediately, we go straight to our connections. If someone hits my car, I call the call marshal of the FRSC. If the police stop me on the road, I call the Inspector General of Police. Delay my passport, forget the immigration boss. I'm calling the Minister of Interior directly. And if you look for my trouble, I am calling the DSS. I mean, we can't do anything about how people make connections, but those connections should be used responsibly. And those with whom we have made these connections should let us know where the boundaries are when we're being irresponsible with our connections. The DSS has promised that if the investigations show that their staff was culpable in this shooting incident over fabric, they will ensure justice is served. And that is something we're all looking forward to. That's Dateline Abuja this week. Please let us know the happenings in your neighborhood using the social media handles showing right now on your screens. Thank you so much for watching. I am Kayla Megwa. See you next time.